Hi there everyone, welcome back to Dandelion Delphi Tutorials. Today we're having a look at a one-dimensional array question. This was in the final 2020 question 4. The first part of this question is asking you to generate 50 random real values in the range from 1 to 99, including both. Important that it was real, and then they said round it to 1 decimal place, and these randomly generated numbers had to be stored in array containers. Press pause and try it yourself. So since I have to generate 50 numbers, I'm going to loop with k from 1 to 50. Array containers were declared for you up there. The index is integer, so therefore I'm using k as an integer, and it can contain real values. The first part here is making sure that I'm storing a new value in each one of these items of the array. So array containers 1, 2, 3, and so on. Assignment statement. And then I've used random range. The integer part there was a number from 1 to 99. Remember, random range excludes that second number. But they asked us to generate a random real number, and therefore I have plus random. Now, random, the function without any brackets or arguments, that will generate a random real number. So the integer part will be 0, point, and then lots and lots and lots of random numbers after the decimal point. But the question said we have to round to the closest first decimal point. In order to do that, I have used round to, and then a -1 there at the end. Remember, round to will round to 10 to the power of this number. So that's why I'm using -9. That is -1. That is 10 to the power of -1. That's the same as 0.1. So this will round the random decimal value to 1 decimal place, and then add it to my integer value from 1 to 99 and place it in my array. Now this question gave you a way out. It said that if you are not able to do this part of the question, you could use this array here, array temp containers. Now what I suggest you do if you were struggling is attempt this part of the code. Use array containers. Leave it there, but then for your next questions, if that wasn't successful, you could use array temp containers. The next button asks us to display array containers, and if you didn't manage that, you'll use array temp containers. It had 50 values, 50 items, so we want to display 10 items on a row and display them all in neat columns. Press pause and try it yourself. There were many ways that you are able to do this question. I am using my normal method that I always use. I usually pick one method and then go from there and see how it fits in with what I'm doing at that stage. So I usually build a string and then display the string when it is time, so one line at a time. I have to loop from 1 to 50 through all the items of array containers. I'm going to build a string. S-line is S-line plus, and then the containers square brackets k. Remember, it's a real number, so I've used float to string. Usually I use float to string f, but since we know we only have 1 decimal place, it's okay to use float to string. And then I have #9 to create my neat columns to make a tab space. Here I'm testing if k mod 10, in other words, if I take k divided by 10 and it has no remainder, then I'm going to display this string that I have built. So in other words, when k is 10, 20, 30, and 40, I'm going to display this line. I also then initialize this line again. Since I've displayed the first line, now when k is 10, I will display my first line. Then I will start building a new line for the second line, and I will add on to that. Also important, if you are going to build a line, well, you need to build a string. That was important. There's no other way around this, but that you do initialize your string above the loop there as well. Another method would be when k mod 10 is equal to 0, you could here say S line is assigned to S line plus #10, and then only display the S line in your rich edit outside of your loop. That's another option. There's quite a bit of reading to do, so I've just tried to explain to you guys here what they're actually asking. These are all containers and they have to be loaded onto a ship. The ship can take a maximum of 200 tons. And you have to start searching at the front and make sure that you don't exceed the 200 tons, but load all of them that's possible onto the ship. So if we go here, we are going to load all of these guys there. All of those, this is your output. This string here is your output. So I'm loading these red ones here are the same as those. Then I'm at 173.5 tons. So should I now add the 41.9 or the 97 or the 49.3, any one of those is going to push me over the 200 limit. So the next one that will fit, the next container that will fit would be this one here, 15.8. That's why it's been added there to the string. So now I'm at 189.3. So I have very little space left, just over 10 tons, to add another container. So now I have to continue to find and search and see if there's another container that will fit without going over the 200 tons. And that would be this one here, the last one, the green one that is added, of 1.4 tons. So now my total that I've loaded here is on 190.7. So you only have 9.3 tons left up to 200 tons. So if you look through all of these values here, you will see that none of them are actually below 10 even. So for that reason, we would then not be able to load anything else. But you have to make your loop stop once it is filled. Remember, it is possible to maybe fill it completely to the 200 tons. So make sure that you use your while loop or your repeat loop for that, whichever one is more comfortable for you. I'm now going to show you the question, and then you are able to try it yourself. So here is the question for the button 4.2, explaining that you want to load these containers. The total weight loaded onto the ship must be as close as possible but not exceed the maximum value of 200 tons. And then the containers must be loaded row by row, meaning that you have to start at the first one and then move your way downwards to the 50th one until the maximum weight has been reached. If adding the weight for a specific container to the total weight will cause the total to exceed the maximum weight of 200 tons, that container must not be loaded. And then you have to continue to search row by row through the remaining containers to find another container with a lower weight that can still be loaded onto the ship. Of containers loaded onto the ship will depend on the random data generated. Remember, you are generating random numbers, so they won't look the same. The examples they used here, though, was from that array temp containers. So if you want to use that and replace it in your code to test that it's working properly, that's fine. Just remember to change it back before the end of the exam to array containers. And then they give you a long explanation here. That's basically what I showed you just now. They ask you to write code to display the weight of the containers onto the ship in a rich edit. That's that single line. They are also asking you to write the weight of the containers loaded onto the ship to a new text file. Then they want you to terminate the process of loading the containers onto the ship as soon as the maximum possible weight is loaded onto the ship. Then they say display the total weight loaded onto the ship in the panel P&L Q4. So you have to display that total that you'll keep track of as well. And that is shown down there. So I'm going to leave it here. You press pause and try it yourself. So we know we have to determine a total. We have our total there on both sides of the assignment statement inside of the loop, and therefore it needs to be initialized. And since I have to make the loop stop, I will initialize k. I will test k that is less than 50 so that it does not try to continue to search through your items if it doesn't fill the 200 tons exactly. So this part here will ensure that it only loops up to the end of the array. Then I'll have to int k, and I'm testing now if the container, the current container, plus R total, my running total, is that less or equals to 200. If it is, then I'm going to load this container. So there's my total, added to my total array containers k. Also, I'm building my string. S-line is assigned to S-line plus floater string of my container plus my #9 there. Remember, S-line is being used on both sides of the assignment statement. Just above the loop, I'm going to initialize it. And this condition here, remember with an AND, put those brackets around each condition. And there I'm just testing if the total is still less than 200. If it's reached 200, then it can stop. It does not need to continue to search. Then finally, all you had to do in the panel was display, remember that label, display your R total. There was only one decimal place showing. So make sure you use your ffix with just (1) there. And this S line here is displaying that string. If you struggled with this question, I hope that by now you know that it had to be a conditional loop because we had to make the loop stop. And this really doesn't change. This is almost like your for loop. For k is 1 to 50. So 1, 2, 3 marks there already. And sometimes we give an extra mark there for the while as well. Just depends on the year of the exam. And then you try this. You know there's a running total. Running totals needs to be initialized. And then display that R total. Even if this part here isn't working, display that. Make sure you have your (1) so that you can still score these marks even though it's not working. And then the final part just said that you had to create a text file, a new text file. If you want to create a new text file, you're going to use rewrite. When we want to write to a text file, we're either going to use rewrite or append. Append adds to an existing one, but this question clearly said a new text file. So I have my assign file. Remember, with every assign file, you have a close file. So assign file, T file, the name of the text file that they gave, tons.txt, rewrite to create it, write line, T file, comma, S line, that line that was built, that's going to be written to the text file, and then my close file, T file. Thank you for watching Dandelion Delphi tutorials. Remember, these harder questions you really need to practice. You can't just watch. If you are looking for more information and activities on one-dimensional arrays, you can have a look at Dandelion Delphi Book 2. Thank you for watching. Hope to see you soon.